Radio. This is Now You're Talking, the award-winning show about the most interesting people and stories in Mississippi, and I am your host, Marshall Ramsey, an editorial cartoonist committed to telling Mississippi stories. Hey, we want to let our great state know the importance of libraries today, and we want to continue to elevate women's voices as well, and that makes Jennifer Lena a perfect guest for today. She serves as the Deputy Executive Director of the Mississippi Library Commission, a role in which she has demonstrated expertise since commencing her career in state government in 2010. A Rankin County resident and a high-achieving alumna of both Belhaven and Southern Miss, Jennifer is Mississippi to the core. She's a recipient of the prestigious Certified Public Manager with Excellence, and we're excited to pick her brain about why libraries are necessary in our state and beyond. Oh, man, I tell you what. And you know that we got to touch on something here real quick. We always mention the award-winning show part. You know, it's not like we got best in show at the local dog show or anything like that. But last year we won #1 talk show, and this year we won #2 talk show in the state. And that's because of three people. Number one, because of Lacey Alexander. We have a huge team going on in this show. Lacey, you are a fantastic producer. You just proved that you could produce me into second place. So congratulations. Thank you for
Marshall
being talented and a friend.
You are very talented, and you are our friend, and you make my job very easy.
Well, thank you, because I usually don't make people's lives easy. So it's kind of nice to know that at least I got one person on my side.
I'll be the one.
That's great. So, so that's the first person, obviously, in the triad. Number two, I guess me, because you're hearing my voice and my name's on the show, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I guess the guest, actually. So there's four people. So the guest also, we have incredible guests every week. We get to meet new people, and that's something I enjoy personally because I get to interview them and so forth. So that's wonderful. But the fourth person is you. You, the listener. We could not do this without you every Monday, and I am so grateful for you because anything that we get like that, awards and so forth, is because you love the show. And thank you so much for being part of it, and thank you so much for listening. I hope you are doing well. I tell you what, a little bit more rough weather last night. We had some rain, and I think we got a ½ inch of rain and maybe 5 inches of pollen last night.
No
something
kidding.
like that.
The cloud of doom, as Dr. McLeod calls it.
I know. I got a picture of the sunrise, and it looked like something from Star Wars. You know, the two suns and everything with the haze from the yellow pollen and everything.
I'm already sneezing.
That's just it's like I'm ready for. Well, I'm ready for spring. You know, naturally, I guess it is spring now. But anyway. So we had a little bit of weather, but last night they had a tornado in Rolling Fork, which seems to be insanely cruel considering we're on the 2-year anniversary today of the EF4, which really was almost an EF5 tornado. And I'm surprised it wasn't an EF5. I think that just let's put it this way. That tornado was so bad, not only did it destroy Rolling Fork, but it took trees, sucked them up into the tornado, ground them up, and it left a trail of mulch across the delta. That is how powerful that tornado was. In fact, that was what we got first place for last year was the show when we talked about that tornado. That storm and watching Rolling Fork having to recover and Silver and, Amory. And I mean, there was just, we're living it again from the storms we had last week. Right. But it's the one thing about Mississippi is I always talk about the chainsaws and casseroles. Before you can get out of the wreckage of your house, there will be a church van in your front yard full of people with chainsaws to cut the tree off your house and casseroles to feed you, right? That is our superpower. And I wrote about that in my newsletter, that literally it's kind of a there but for the grace of God moment for most of us because we see that and we want to go help because we know that our turn in the barrel is coming soon. And I'm just thankful the tornado did cause a little bit of damage. It barely touched down. It roped out and then went on. But that still, when I saw that warning last night, I was like, really? Really? Can Rolling Fork catch a break? It would be wonderful. So,
I told you before the show, we just need to put a big dome over the entire community of Rolling Fork.
I
just
think
protect them with a bubble or something.
Yeah, what do you think we should make the dome out of? I mean, if we're going to do this, we'll just do it from the show, right?
Yeah, right.
We'll do that. You have any vested interest in the basketball thing?
Well, my alma mater is in there. The University of Alabama is in the Sweet 16. So, yes.
How did they get in?
Being good, I guess.
I doubt it. Well, my alma mater's in there too.
Yeah.
We are good. So
we will fight. before this month is over.
I know we got to play Kentucky Friday, so yuck. So anyway, but yeah, I think Ole Miss is in there too.
Ole Miss is in there too.
Yeah, so it's SEC has had an incredible year. You know, they talk about the parity in the SEC, and this isn't a sports show, but still, it's incredible how well the basketball has done this year. So
Yeah.
and by the way, Tennessee did beat Alabama at home in the series. So.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
I do remember
but
that.
you weren't going to bring it up.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, just
Thanks,
checking.
Marshall.
Well, no, that's the least we can do.
Jennifer's about to see us fight.
Yeah, it would be ugly. Hey, look. So real quick before, Jennifer's sitting here just anxious to talk. But that said, what's your best library memory as a kid?
My best library memory as a kid. Most libraries have a specific section for children to kind of go sit and read, maybe while their adult supervisors are looking at other
Is that
stuff.
what we're calling parents these days?
Yeah,
Adult
sure. I mean, you
supervisors?
never know.
Okay.
But I remember like the Gardendale Library had a specific place where we could go read like as kids while our parents maybe went to go look for something else.
Was it kind of like the crying room in church?
Well, it wasn't a crying room. It was a fun room.
Okay.
And I remember sitting there and a lady at the Gardendale Public Library in Alabama walked up to me and said, "You're reading, that's a big book for your age." And I was like, "Well, I like big books." And she was like, "Well, try this one." And it was just
War and Peace.
And it was a book about some polar bear and some lady, and the lady fell in love with the polar bear, but the polar bear was a man. It was some Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it was like East. I think that was the name of the book. And I can't for the life of me remember all the details.
Did
but
the polar bear eat the woman?
No, the polar bear became a man at the end.
Oh, okay.
And they got married. And I wish I could remember that
That
lady's name.
explains so much about you.
I know, but it was so special. Someone took one look at me and said, "I want you to enjoy this thing." And like, you are such a young little mind, and you're reading these big girl books, and here's another big girl book. So that is my favorite library memory.
I have a very similar one. Judy from Gritter's Library in Marietta, Georgia. My mom, to her credit, would take me there once a week, and we would check out books. And she would also buy me books, too. I mean, Mom was always really big. And really a big reason why I am who I am in the way of an illustrator and everything else is because of children's books and so forth. But Judy was fantastic. Judy recognized that I was a very smart little kid that loved books. And she was I always joke that she was my book dealer, right? Kind of like a drug dealer, but she was my book dealer. She would set me up with a book every week. And she introduced me to Wrinkle in Time and to Where the Red Fern Grows and Pippi Longstocking and all these books that just completely expanded my whole world of storytelling and so forth. And so, I'm a big fan of libraries for that reason. But libraries, and of course, you're talking to a guy who grew up and worked in the newspaper business for many years, and that changed. Well, libraries have changed too. And so we have got a fantastic guest today. Jennifer Lina's here. Jennifer, by the way, you are Mississippi Public Broadcasting family also.
I am.
You are. You got some skin in the game here.
I definitely
So you're married
do.
to Hank down in TV.
I am.
Yeah. So, and you got a big day coming up tomorrow.
It is.
And he took the whole week off for your anniversary, and you're here at work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He think he had the right idea, but
So what's the big year for you all?
it's number 2.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did year number 1 go?
Oh, it was great.
Was it?
It
You still
was.
like each other?
We do.
So what's the biggest thing you fight about?
Oh goodness, probably TV shows. We like the complete opposite things to watch.
You
So
know, that's
usually
why
it's-
we bought a second television. Yeah.
That's usually the battle. What are we going to watch?
Yeah, I mean,
tonight?
we've been married 32 years. So we were the other night, I'm not kidding. We were there Saturday night. We're like, okay, we're going to watch a TV show together. And she got frustrated because it's like 57 channels and nothing's on kind of thing, the old song. And we're just sitting there clicking through it. And she couldn't find anything. And I do it. And we're clicking through it. And finally, we just randomly decided, okay, we're going to try this one. And it turned out to be a really good show. But it was just like, we're going to end up getting divorced over a TV show. So, but yeah, so it's TV show, but it's not clothes on the ground or anything like that.
No, not really.
Man, you got to go.
Definitely. But I'm hearing you say I've got 30 more years at least of having the TV show argument.
Yeah, well, like I said, a second TV goes a long way. Or you can do like I do sometimes and just watch my iPad while she's watching her show.
Usually he picks the show and I stay on my phone.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So you've already worked this
Right.
out. So that's good.
We're working on it. Yeah.
See, yeah, we got married so long ago. We only had one TV with vacuum tubes. So it's like it's definitely it's definitely come a long way on choice on that. But you you're Mississippian true and true. You're from Raymond
I am.
originally. Yeah.
Lived in Raymond my whole life, and literally when Mary and him moved to Rankin County, we now reside in Pearl.
Nice. Okay. So, do you have a big memory of a librarian when you were a kid?
My memories are, back in high school, we didn't have internet back then, so it was going and doing research papers and having to go pull all the
The Dewey
encyclopedias,
Decibel system.
finding it and pulling the encyclopedias off the shelf and having to sit there and look it up and move it all to the little cards. Times have definitely changed.
I know. I was just thinking all that time I did to learn that, and now it's like I just use Chat GTP and I'm
Something fixes it for you completely. But now be careful, because it will reword your stuff for you. So
It does, and it also gives you some stuff that's not right either.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah. So generally, college
Exactly.
professors still frown on it, but it is a helpful tool. But that
Sure.
said, the change and everything. But that's your memory growing up, and you didn't think when you were growing up, you know what, I want to get into the library business.
I did not. The way I came about libraries was very different. When you get out of college, you're supposed to when you get out of high school, you're supposed to immediately go to college and know what you're going to do.
That's right.
Did not have a clue. So I went to work for an uncle who was an attorney, got some secretary, paralegal type experience. Then I decided that staying home with children would be more important when I had children. So I went and stayed home for a little while.
How
And
many kids do you have?
I have 2.
Wonderful.
And at that time, it was more important to do that. And then when it came time for them to go to school, it was time to go back to work. So I went back to the legal field because that's what I knew. Did that for a good long time. And when I was looking for something different to do, the opportunity at the Library Commission just opened up for me. I had a good friend who had just recently left, and she's like, "Hey, Jennifer, I think you'd be great for this job." And it was finance and budgeting, which I'm a numbers gal. I really am. So that is my introduction into the Library Commission and working there. So I was totally into the finance side, paying the bills. And when you're in that role, you don't really get to see the true value.
Right.
You're paying all the bills and you're seeing what's going through, but you don't get to really experience the actual providing services. So that first impression for me was, again, as financial, we get federal funds. So we
I was gonna say, since you're a pro on the financial side too, how are libraries funded?
So we're state funded and federally funded. The Institute of Museum and Library Sciences provides our federal funding, and then the rest is state. So we get a little of both.
Okay, ballpark for federal funding that you get.
A little over $2 million.
$2 million.
Currently, yes. And we take a good portion of that and provide it back out to libraries in subgrants so that they can do various projects in their own communities.
So and we'll dive into, when we're talking about you right now, but we'll dive into all the different roles that the Mississippi Library Commission does, because it really is pretty. I thought it was really cool. Just the more I learned about them, more
Lots
things.
of things.
Lots of things. So, so you got into the financial side and you kind of worked your way up. I was just looking at your, I stalked you on LinkedIn. I hope you didn't mind that. You're
Not at all. That's why it's there.
Oh, which, by the way, Lacey, I got to tell you this. I emceed the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra's big fundraiser thing. I wore a tux. I put a picture of myself with a tux up on there.
Aww.
I'm now seriously on LinkedIn. I'm getting job suggestions that I be a casino dealer.
Really?
Yes, I guess because I was wearing the bow tie.
See, I used to get emails from Indeed that said, "Lacey, your theater degree makes you great for this role, server at Outback," and like stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I know.
It would hurt my feelings.
No, I mean, I'm just trying to think of me as a casino dealer, which is kind of cool. I guess I could move to the coast.
You don't have a good poker face. If someone got a rough hand, you'd be like, "Ugh."
Yeah, I don't have a good face anyway, so it's generally. Oh, that's right. They're actually. I see they were on TV now. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So you got in there. You kind of worked your way up. You got different jobs along the way. I mean, how did you end up being in the role that you're in today?
Paying attention, knowing what's going on. I hope to say doing a good job at it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very challenging time. So learning about library services and working well with partner entities and finding ways to save money during budget cuts and just open the door for the opportunity for me to be able to progress up. Yeah,
I was looking at you started in 2010, like you said. You're still at it to this day. You took this job about in 2023, so right after the pandemic a little bit. But I was just looking at your fiscal services director job was Like I said, it's just kind of how everything worked out. But the pandemic for libraries turned out to be a moment of incredible crisis and incredible importance because it was like, suddenly you couldn't have people in the libraries, but suddenly everybody needed them because they needed the Wi-Fi.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was chaotic at first because nobody knew, so the first thought with COVID was that you can't touch a book. So you were literally getting books back in and you would quarantine them for 14 days and let them have to sit in a room. So the constant changing of information was very overwhelming and trying to switch so quickly to figure out what to do and what can you do and what should you do. And you're trying to be as extreme as you can because you don't want to keep it going. But it was very challenging times for our libraries.
Yeah, little did we know we just had to breathe and get everybody sick. So there you go. That was,
right.
I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to talk a little bit more you and then dive deep into the libraries. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, we're going to take that break. We're going to take that break. How about that? Sound like Dr. Seuss here now. Anyway, we'll be back in just a minute with Jennifer Lena. This is Now You're Talking on MPB Think Radio.
The Measuring Show.
Since 1970, MPB has been enriching the lives of Mississippians.
Everything we do gives us the chance to grow and learn.
With your support, we are always there whenever and wherever you need us. Together through the years, together in the future. Please consider making a donation at mpbfoundation.org. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Dr. Susan Buttress asks the hard questions on Southern Remedy, Relatively Speaking.
Can you forgive anyone, anytime, for anything? Do we know how to have a healthy relationship? Have you heard this statement, who am I to judge? Have we taken a hard look at what we're doing as adults? Are you feeling happy?
Find out our answers to these questions by listening to the Southern Remedy, Relatively Speaking podcasts, or listen live Tuesdays at 11 on MPB Think Radio.
Hello, I'm Desiree Frazier, host of the award-winning news program, Mississippi Edition. We bring you conversations about the latest news from across the Magnolia State. Whether it's politics, healthcare, or education, you'll hear in-depth discussions on issues that matter to you. So join us each weekday morning at 8:30 on MPB Think Radio, or download the podcast, listen through the app, and online.
You're listening to Now You're Talking on MPB Think Radio. I'm your host, Marshall Ramsey, and we're back with Jennifer Lena, the Deputy Executive Director of the Mississippi Library Commission. Your business card is about 6 inches long.
Yeah,
that's impressive. Yes. So anyway, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was excited to get the opportunity.
That's great. We were sitting in the the lobby talking a little bit in the green room, and she was like, 45 minutes is a long time. But look, we're almost halfway done.
Oh.
We're doing great. So, see, it's not a problem. And you've been fantastic. These are just a few stats that I dug up. This is a 2024 YouGov survey. 85% of people have a favorable opinion of public libraries. That's good.
Yes.
47% say they should get more funding. We need to get that number up a little bit, but that's still good.
I agree with that.
Okay, that's 53% say they are important to the community. Mm-hmm. I'd say that's probably around 90% should be saying that as well. And I thought this was fascinating. This is a 2023 American Library Association poll found that 54% of Gen Z and millennials have visited a library in the past year. So there you go.
Yeah.
So that's good. So, but the number of books that go out probably has dropped a little bit. So, which kind of leads us to the whole discussion of that libraries aren't exactly the libraries that they were when we were kids. They serve a different purpose in some ways now, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
So that's a very common statement I think that we hear is, why does anybody need to go to the library? Because you can get a book on your phone in a second. Well, that's true. Libraries also pay for that as well. Which
is really cool, by the way.
The Library Commission, we actually pay for Hoopla, which is an ebook platform for all the libraries, so that patrons everywhere can listen to them. And then many libraries, have additional services like that too. So a lot of the things that libraries do, not just in your communities, but us as the state library, you don't even have to go in the door to get. You're still getting these services from home, from wherever you are. So it's important that people realize that and still seek out your library and see what programs that they have for you. That's very important.
I am by nature cheap. And I do like it when I can go check out a book and then take it back, and that's kind of cool. And I still like the thrill. It kind of reminds me of the days of Blockbuster when you know you're waiting on a book to get it, and it's like, I got a book. This is great. But I always like the fact that now, you can sit there and search the collection from the house, which is kind of neat too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go in and look at anybody's catalog and see what books are available. And if they're not available, you're able to order them. So libraries can borrow from each other. So if your local library doesn't have the book you want, they just order it.
Oh, really?
And it shows up, and then you come pick it up.
Oh, that's great. And that doesn't cost you anything.
Doesn't cost. All free.
All free?
All free services at your
Yeah,
library.
and I mean, obviously your tax dollars, but when you start figuring out how much tax money that you pay for your library, it's like pennies on the dollar.
Absolutely.
So that's great. So talk about, this is something I did not cover the last segment a little bit, but you are a certified public manager of excellence.
Yes.
So it's not a certified public manager of okay or,
Yes.
mediocre. No, you are of excellence.
Excellence, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's a really cool honor, by the way, and you worked really hard to get it.
I did, and it takes a very long time to get there. That is a program that is offered through the Mississippi State Personnel Board. They have the Certified Manager Program. Takes a good while to get through that. You have you reach a certified supervisory management first, and then you go additional levels, 6 total, to get to the certified public manager. Once you've graduated from that program, if you do enough continuing education hours every year, it takes you 2 years to get a year of excellence. So I'm actually currently the highest in the state. I'm the only person at level 5. All my cohorts retired that were on with me.
Can I get you to sign my script today? That's congratulations. That's wonderful.
So very exciting. I do believe very much in that. There is a separate CPM society for which I'm currently the president-elect, which encourages you to constantly continue your education in leadership roles and management roles. I'm a very strong believer in that. When I moved to this new role at Deputy Executive Director, that was one of my biggest visions, was to work very heavily on our culture in our agency in leadership. So that has been a passion of mine, and I have instilled a lot of, we do mandatory supervisor trainings. If you manage a person, you are in that program at whatever level. We do mandatory leadership book readings every month. And in fact, this afternoon will be our next meeting where we talk about it, go around the room. Everybody talks about what they learned. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
That is still such a good book.
It is. It's a great book. It's an oldie but a goodie, but yeah. Because you just learn, you read a book like that, something's going to stand out to you.
That's right.
Something's going to make an impression on you. And that is heavily encouraged in any actual entity. Leadership should be a huge focus, because without good leadership, you're not really going to succeed. So,
well, let's get a preview for your meeting with this book. What are 2 things that you think that'll help your fellow people in the Library Commission?
I think the biggest one I push on them from the book is begin with the end in mind.
Yes, that's
super important, because you got to have a vision of where you want to get before you make that plan to get there. And then the other one would be sharpen the saw. And
yes,
firm believer in you have to constantly continue your education.
Well, for those of you who are not familiar with the book, there are 4 quadrants that we live in, and there's one where we should live in, which is basically important but not urgent, and so we can be proactive on that. But we're all busy, right? So we're all busy, and our saws get dull.
Absolutely.
And it makes it harder to do our work. So.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent on that, but that's fascinating.
You're good.
But that's good that you're doing that growth and so forth, and that you're promoting that one in there a little bit. So talk, your education a little bit, and let's talk about you've got, you got a master's in public administration, you got a master's in library and information and science. Are you working on a master's in anything else right now, or are you going to go to doctorate at this point?
No, I did think about it, but no, I'm going to stop where I am and just, like I say, focus my time on trying to work with others and mentor others and get them in roles that will help push their careers along.
Right. So how are things at the Mississippi Library Commission right now?
They're great, but they're challenged.
Yeah.
Funding is very scary.
Yeah.
We're currently facing concerns at the federal level. IMLS is where we get our funding from, so there's a lot of challenges there. We're also facing a state budget cut as well, so we're crossing our fingers for the next 2 weeks until that final appropriation bill comes out to see where we are, and just kind of hoping and praying every day to see what happens with the federal funding.
Yeah, we had all those draconian budget cuts in the middle of the 2010s, right? So you're no stranger to this a little bit. What happens if you do get those cuts? Where do you have to cut services? Do you cut people? Where do you have to go for that?
We cut services. That's the challenge. You can cut people, but that only saves you for a year. When the next year comes around, then you're going to lose the funding for the people.
Oh, that's true.
So you can't ever get that back. So when we had those tragic budget cuts that came several years ago, it really cut the funding that's provided out to public libraries to, in turn, give their services to all of their patrons in all the counties.
Yeah. Let's go for a more positive tack on this a little bit, because I think, like I said, people drive past the library. There are some communities that don't have libraries now, sadly, or they're closing because of neglect or because of mold or whatever. But libraries are a big part of a community, and we've discussed that, talking about the pandemic. That was huge. I think everybody realized, oh my gosh, that's like the only source of Wi-Fi in the town, internet. Talk about all the different things that a library can do for a community.
Oh, there's so many. We would need more than an hour for that.
Oh, that's fine. We got 30 minutes.
So at the Library Commission, we support all the libraries and everything that they do. But you have to think, first of all, as you've said, it's so important that children go for programming and summer reading programs to keep up with the education slide in the summer, and services that are offered for. You can go in and talk to a reference librarian and get access to any question that you have, and you're getting that information from reputable sources. And that's the important thing, especially for students that are writing papers and college students. Another thing is the databases that we have are actually funded by the legislature, so we pay for those at the Library Commission for all of public libraries, K through 12, as well as colleges, so they're getting access to those databases. You've got so many different programs. There's adult programming where you can go in. And as funny as Lacey was saying earlier, the caregivers or adults get to have something going on while they're watching their kids, and that's the thing. Take your kids to that local program so that you can also find something to do while you're waiting on them as well. There's so many different specialty things too. We have Talking Books program, which is where you can get books on tape for those who are visually impaired or can't hold a book. I know y'all have a program here, Reading Radio, with Mike Duke, who's he's great. He actually serves on our advisory committee for that program. But it's a very important service. We do that statewide, so all the libraries are able to put up displays so that if someone in their community needs it, they fill out an application for it there, send it to us. It all goes in the mail to them. So it's a very, very important service for anyone who has any kind of visual impairments, or, like I say, if you're just elderly and unable to hold a book, anything similar in that role. So that's an excellent program that we have. We are currently partnering with the Library of Congress doing the Veterans History Project. So it's getting the stories of all the veterans recorded before we don't have them anymore. Yeah. So that's been a huge undertaking that we've recently done, and trying to get as many of those as we can.
Is that done through each individual library where they can come in and they can do it, or how does that work?
We actually go to the library if they have it in that community, or anywhere in that community if there's other places that they are. A lot of veterans' homes to get stories of the veterans that are there. So we do that. We also have special collections. Those are things that aren't your traditional books. So we have all kind of puzzles and kits and large games. So if your library is putting on a local program and you aren't able to afford those from your library budget, you can check them out from us and we'll send them to you. So they have that opportunity. We have, my mind's going to go blank in a moment. We have lots of, we at the Library Commission have consultants that are assigned to each library, so they're able to talk to them regularly every month and figure out what's going on, what do they need, how we can better their services. We have an entire technology department that goes and fixes anything that goes wrong in a library. So think about a very small rural library who has a very low budget. They can't afford to have an IT person on staff, let alone know how to fix computers when they break. So we send technicians out literally to every library in the state to help fix it and help them plan for any projects that they want to do. So that's an ongoing, that's been a super favorite program. Lots of getting computers into libraries. You know, you may be a librarian, but you're not up to date on the specs of computers and what you need. So we go in and have that specialty there for you. As I said, we provide grant funding back out to libraries that we get from the feds, and they're able to do their own community needs assessment because it's different communities need different things.
That's right.
So it gives them the opportunity to figure out what they need and what they want to do, and then we provide the money for them to be able to support that.
Yeah, like I said before, you know, the number of books maybe going out isn't quite as high a volume as it used to be, but I do a lot of programs in libraries, and I get to go and I draw and I read my children's books to kids and so forth, and I allow them to draw cartoons with me. When I go in there, there is somebody sitting at every single computer in that.
Absolutely. And, you know, that was the first big impact I had with libraries was, again, working in that financial world. I got to go on the audit with the federal auditor and going to a library and getting there about 15 minutes before the doors opened and watching the line of people down the steps waiting to get in and use the computers. It was such an impact. And that was the game changer for me of wanting more of our service side and learning what we do, which, again, as you said, kind of led to my progression of where I went and my interest in it. And as we're walking around the library, watching the people who'd walked in all got the computers, well, they were full. And then you had to get a number and wait for the next person to get up, and then it was your turn to go and sit down. Because we don't think about that. If you have access to the internet or you live in a very metropolitan area, you may have 3 or 4 devices connected to the internet at any moment. And when you go and you see in a rural area people who can't afford it and don't have access to it, it's a real game changer for the way you see things.
I know. I remember back when Governor Barber was in office, he was talking about people getting their medical services through the web. And so I drew a lady on the porch looking up at a spider web, trying to get that, you know, so on that. But yes, no, it makes a huge difference knowing that resource is there. And like I said, you know, just thinking about during the pandemic, people sitting out in the parking lot, you know, trying to get as much Wi-Fi as they could. So.
School suddenly went virtual. Nobody was prepared. How does that work? So libraries turned their Wi-Fi on in their parking lots.
Yeah.
And you had several people lining the streets actually trying to get internet access.
I mean, obviously your brand is books, right? But it's more than books.
It's so much more than books.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
See, there's your tagline right there. It's so much more than books.
So much more than books.
But you also
really
too,
is.
and you touched on, like I said, you're a numbers person. You did the audits and so forth, and I think we live in this age where there's a lot of cries for fraud and waste and governance. What you saw when you would go and do those audits was that the money was being really well spent.
Absolutely. And, you know, what I would say to those politicians is for us, especially, we operate on a reimbursement only. So there is no waste or fraud. We're seeing every dollar that a library spends. It's not like a blank check is written.
Yeah.
You know, so we know without a shadow of a doubt there is no waste in what we do. And we get to see that impact going and visiting those libraries of what those dollars did and how it impacted the patrons of those communities.
With your job, do you get to go out around the state and travel and get to go visit some of the libraries?
I do, but not as much as I want, and not as much as I hope to do in the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So are there any, and I get a chance, I guess, to brag on any particular libraries, are there any libraries that stand out in your mind in the state?
Well, I tell you, actually,
I mean, that's kind of like bragging on your kids. I get that.
Yes,
you know, you don't say, well, I
yes.
like this kid much better than this one, but...
Well, I'll tell you one thing that stands out. We're going in 2 weeks to the Celebration First Regional Library System, which is actually called that because they were the first regional library system. Yeah. They're celebrating their 75th anniversary in 2 weeks. And so
that's incredible.
Being the first one. So the Library Commission was actually started in 1926. That was an appropriation by the legislature. Of course, it wasn't funded, so kind of slow there in the beginning. And the goal at the time was to make sure that library services were provided in every county in the state.
Wow.
It took 44 years to get there, and by 1970 was the final. Every single county had a library there. So luckily that has maintained all this time. So we're serving all 82 counties. Now, some libraries are just a one county one, and several of them serve multiple counties together as a group. So you've got a little bit of all of it out there. But it back to your point, it is so important to go and see the different things that are going on and make those memories in your library and get those kids off iPads. You let them go to programs. Go see the Snake Man. Go look at the programs that are happening for children and make children love libraries early on.
Because like I said, I could go on all day about how my local library changed my life. I remember going there and meeting a guy who was an editorial cartoonist for one of the local TV stations, and then he went on to become the first graphic artist for the Weather Channel. But he was so nice to me. His name was Bill Daniels was his name, and he was just super nice to me. And I just remember, it's like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And you never know who you're going to meet at a library.
You don't, yeah. And you've got to love those librarians, too, that get attached to your kids and create that love with your kids where they want to come back and want to get more books.
So it isn't just people going, shh.
They're not just libraries anymore.
Okay. So
It's
you're able to make noise in libraries now?
You can make noise in libraries.
See,
now.
I was just born too soon. I was obviously way ahead of my time.
Yeah, you can, though. Those children's programs get loud and rowdy. I went to visit one library, and they were having a Lego program. And, oh, my goodness, y'all, thousands of Legos all over the floor. For a mom, looks like the worst nightmare to clean up. But those kids having the best time. And they get the networking and socialization, and it's just so important.
That's incredible. Do you have like a warehouse full of all the Dewey Decimal cards still?
We do not. In fact, if you find those, they're very valuable now.
Are they really?
Cards, yes.
Because I mean, seriously, when I finally mastered it, it was just like the internet was invented. I was like, dadgummit, I finally got it down.
That's how it goes. Still use it to put books in, but you don't go to the card catalog anymore. It's all digital.
That's pretty awesome. I tell you what, why don't we take our final break right now? We'll be back with Jennifer a little bit more. This is Now You're Talking on MPB Think Radio.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Rush. As a blues man, I love Mississippi Public Broadcasting. If you support Mississippi music and their local programming, donate now, right now, and become a member today, not tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Doesn't matter how big or small, but we prefer big. Thank you very much.
Both seasons of the 10-Minute Timeout are now available on a variety of podcasting apps. The mini podcast can be binged in a day and is perfect for those that just want a quick listen. Join me, Lacey Alexander, as I sit down with special guests, revisit major moments, and give a platform to the athletes and sports that shape Mississippi. Head over to mpbonline.org to give it a try.
What's happening at the Mississippi Legislature? Tune in to MPB's At Issue for an inside look at the legislative session, interviews with legislators, and perspectives from both sides of the aisle. I'm your host, Wilson Stribling. At Issue airs every Friday night at 6:30 on MPB Think Radio throughout the session. You can also subscribe to the MPB At Issue podcast and catch At Issue videos on YouTube and at mpbonline.org. MPB's At Issue. Tune in, Mississippi.
Together through the years, together in the future. MPB, your stories, our mission.
All right, welcome back. This is Now You're Talking on MPB Think Radio. I am your host, Marshall Ramsey, and we're back with Jennifer Lena, who is a bigwig. I guess that's the short version of your title with the Mississippi Library Commission. Has been telling us a little bit why the libraries make such a big impact in Mississippi. I agree with you. I'm a big fan of libraries, obviously. And I don't get to them as much as I should. And it's just like, okay, that's bad on my part. But we were just going over some of the services, and you were saying during the break, it's like, well, the funny thing is like I forgot some of them, on that. But they really, obviously, I think we're at a time right now where we as Mississippians probably need to say, you know what, libraries do mean something to us, and there are ways for us to protect it. What are some ways that we can protect libraries in the state?
I think it's really people First of all, realizing the importance of their libraries. If you're not a regular person who goes to your local library or even knows what it does, you need to take the time to stop, look at their website, see what's going on. You know, as we've talked about, the programs that your children can get there are just amazing at most of your libraries. So take the time to know what's going on, and then make sure that your local elected officials are aware of how important these services are.
Right.
And that what your children are learning and seeing and the educational opportunities that they have are so important.
And I can say this now. My youngest is 17 now, so I'm really out of the small kid business until grandkids start coming around. But not yet. The thing is, though, I just those programs in the summer. I mean, that in itself is invaluable because you're constant. When you have small kids, you are constantly looking for something to get them, keep them from staring at their screen or watching TV or do whatever, but also too, like I said, that enrichment that they get from that experience. That right there should be enough reason for you to say, oh yeah, no, I'm team library.
And it's all free.
And it's free.
So that's why those tax dollars are important if you want to continue to have that opportunity. And as we're seeing more and more homeschoolers come into the play too, you know, what a great place to go and get those resources for homeschooling parents as well.
You know, and I remember when I was working back a million years ago, I'd tell you the story. There was a local library nearby, and I'd go there during lunch every day and research editorial cartooning positions around the country and so forth. And I was able to do, and this was obviously before, the internet. That was 1991. But it was like, that's how I have a career, was because I was able to go to a quiet place every day during lunch and sit down and kind of do my research.
And, if you think about that too, all job applications are now online. So if you don't have those services available at your house, where are you going to go?
That's right.
Every library has a space. Some of them have special spaces, but everybody has a computer for job searches so that people can go in and fill out online applications and be able to find jobs.
I remember you used to go get tax forms there.
You used to go get tax. You still can
if
you need them.
Okay, that's good.
Yes. But again, everything's moving to online. Some bills are only payable online. So as more of the online features become available and you don't have access to that, you're going to go to your local library.
Tell us about some of the folks that work at the Mississippi Library Commission, because I know you're proud of the people you work with.
Oh, yes. We have an absolute great crew. Hewlin Bivens is our executive director. He's been there for a little over 7 years with us. Then there's me. And then we have Alex Brower, who is our information services director. So she's the one who's responsible for all those reference questions that you might have. Then we have our technology department. We have a brand new director in there, Matt Smith, who just joined us. We have our entire financial side is Lynn Burris, who took over for me when I promoted up. She's running our entire financial side. She is amazing. We have another new employee, Miranda Loper, who's handling our talking book services that we talked about earlier that were so important, that are designated for one particular patron population. We have Christina Kelly, who handles our public relations. She's been here with me today. Her job is to make that awareness of public libraries and how important they are, and she works actually with the public relations directors in all of the libraries to help them promote the services locally. We have Sharon Davis, who's joined us as our consultant, library development. She's head of that, so she makes sure that all the libraries have a consultant and that they're talking to them regularly. Then we have Mike Daniels, who runs our whole building and our operations, and he's great too.
Yeah,
I hope I didn't forget anybody. They're running through them in my head.
No, that's okay. This is a little bit of inside baseball, but y'all are about maybe 100 yards away from us.
Absolutely,
right now.
just across the street.
You had a very tough commute to get over here today. So.
Well, it wasn't raining, so that made it a whole lot better. We were a little worried about that.
Oh yeah, that would have been a little awkward. But the bottom line is what you're saying is that the Mississippi Library Commission are made up of Mississippians like you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And really, librarians in your community, those are people who are invested in the communities where they're at.
Completely. Yeah, and they, you can really tell a difference when libraries and the local legislators grew up in their communities and they come to those services and come to the programs that are being offered, and it really does make a difference when they see that. And we try to do lots of partnerships. We partner with the Humanities Council.
I was going to get you to talk about that because you do some stuff with Mississippi Public Broadcasting as well.
We do with Humanities Council. We actually do prison book clubs. We serve the prison industry's population.
That's
so
fantastic.
they pay for the books, and we send a consultant there who does book clubs to help continuing literacy in prisons. We do several partnerships here with public broadcasting. We, as I said earlier, reading radio service. We do some with the talking books and help promote that. We do a lot with Dr. Marvin Jeter and the education department here. They are doing a lot of programs in our libraries to, again, bring together Department of Education, public broadcasting, and libraries all together to just really promote the importance of reading, which is the goal of the Center for the Book program, which lives at the Library Commission. So every state has a Center for the Book affiliate, or most all of them do, and Mississippi's lives at the Library Commission. So the goal is...
Hang on, let's call out the states that don't have that. That's absolutely awful. Oh, no, we don't want literacy. We want our people to be dumb.
Yeah. But that program allows us the opportunity to really push education, in so many different directions. It's huge, of course, for the book festival, which I have a little surprise for you.
Uh-oh, you do?
I do.
Okay.
Your book, Saving Sam, was chosen as the Great Read Selection, so it will be the featured book for Mississippi, both at the National Book Festival and at the local book festival.
What?
So we hope to partner with you in the near future.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yay!
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Go, Marshall!
So Banjo Sam and Mr. ML and Pip are thrilled. That's cool. How'd that happen?
Yeah, we sent out books to a committee inside the agency, and they're all voted on, and yours won.
Oh, great. Can I get you to write that down? So that's fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yes,
thank you.
We're excited. So
She told me before the show, she was like, I'm going to tell him, don't tell him.
Well, goodness gracious. I don't know what else we can talk about now. That's amazing. That means the world to me.
I did read your book. I did enjoy your book.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's 600 words. It's not a long read. I know. I always love telling people, like, how long did it take you to write that? Oh, about 45 minutes. It took me a while to draw it, but
I'm a cat person, so.
Oh, good. So you like Sam? Well, good. I'll make sure I sign you a copy of the book. So that's fantastic. Well, thank you.
Excited.
You made my day.
Well, good.
You made my day. So that's great. So, like I said, you're out there, and I love how the fact that you're partnering with different groups, and it's like everybody working on this as a team together.
Yes, definitely.
What's your basic funding level? I mean, how much do y'all usually cost a year to keep the lights on?
we get.
I like that laugh. That was good.
Oh, well,
we have an extension cord running over to your building.
Well, y'all had that big generator out here for a while. We should have just plugged in and saved some.
Yes, that was very handy.
There literally were times during some significant budget crunches where you were reaching a point where you watched where that temperature went.
Yeah.
And you were a little more careful about what you were using. So our overall budget runs around a $14 million range. That includes the federal funding as well.
So for $14 million, when you're talking about a several $billion state budget, that's like pennies.
Absolutely. And so much of ours also is automatically it's line itemed in our appropriation bill.
So it all comes from overdue fines from the books, right?
No. We don't even charge for that. It's okay. Most libraries are dropping that now. You can take your old book back, and you will not.
Yeah, because I got one that's probably got about $85,000 in fines on it. I'm going to have to take back, and I have a couple Netflix CDs. So
I think you're good. I think you'll be okay. But, we're mandated by law to pay for those, first of all, the databases that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The legislature pays for what's called Magnolia databases.
Okay.
So those, we spend $1.35 million on those. That's automatically in our bill. We pay for the health and life insurance for public library workers, which also lives.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it helps just, again, they're having such a difficult time. Again, think about those rural libraries that have no funding, and their ability to hire staff and keep staff and having those benefits is so important. So it is in statute that we pay for their health and half of their life insurance. So, and then there's the Personnel Incentive Grant Program, which was also actually created back in the 40s, I believe it was. And that is where state funding comes through us to go out to local libraries to help them keep qualified staff, because it is important that you have people that understand the right resources. For us at the Library Commission, it's mandatory that you have to have a master's in library science to work in many of our library-specific roles. It is also a statute that our public library directors must have that. So again, you're focusing on having some qualified staff in there. So a lot of, while, it's $14 million seems like a lot to somebody, probably not a lot to others, depends on where you are, but so much of that is automatically mandated to go back out that our operating budget ends up being pretty small in
Right.
the end.
Yeah, so it's not like you're rolling around in Scrooge McDuck coins in the pool.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's great. That's great. And of course, you're talking about library sciences. Where would you go? Where are some colleges, even locally, that have that degree?
So in the state of Mississippi, the University of Southern is the only one who has a library
Yeah.
and science degree program. So if you're going to Mississippi, that's where you'll be going.
That makes sense. That makes all the sense in the world. Well, we got a couple minutes here. Is there something else you'd like to cover?
The biggest thing I think I just would push to everybody again is go visit your local library, see what's going on, get to know your librarian, have input into, you are the community. So have input to them of what you want to see, what you want them to do, because that's a constant challenge, I think, for all of us. We do surveys out the wazoo of what do you want to see, what do you want to do, and if you don't get responses back, you're not really able to build the programs that, the community actually wants. So definitely let your library know and check out their website, check out their social media, see what's going on, take your children, let them enjoy the programs, let them learn what a library is all about from an early age so that it will hopefully carry throughout life and they'll continue to be a library supporter.
And they usually have cool used book sales too.
They do. They
That's
do.
great. Once again, I love to stretch a penny. So that's which I don't even make. They're not making pennies anymore. So I guess stretch a nickel. I don't know what I have to do on that. But man, this has been great today. I've learned a lot. It's been fantastic.
Glad. Yes, it's been a great interview. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, like I said, we got a minute, and like I said, happy anniversary. I'm happy for you and Hank. And okay, folks, they're about to build a house together. So I just want to let you know that we may have you back in just to talk an hour, or maybe therapy on how that's going a little bit.
Marriage relation therapy and building a house.
Yeah, Amy and I did that. We did that really early on. I learned very quickly not to have opinions.
Well, would you share that with him when he comes back to work?
No. He needs to learn on his own.
We both have a lot of opinions.
It's Women's History Month, so Hank can take a step back.
No, yeah, he needs to take one for the team. I actually, believe it or not, was dumb enough to have an opinion on what a silver pattern we should have.
Oh, no.
Like, we haven't touched that stupid stuff in 30 years, and I had an opinion on it. I was an idiot back then. Hank is much smarter. Of course, he married you. That's a good thing. This has been fun today.
Yes,
Thank you
it
so
has
much.
been.
Website so they can find out more?
Our website is mlc.lib.ms.us.
Wow, she had that memorized. That's impressive. Thank you for my good news, too. That meant the world to me.
Absolutely.
All right,
We're
and
excited.
thank you for listening, and special thanks once again to Jennifer for being with us. And if you'd like to hear this or any past episodes, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app or our MPB Public Media app. Now You're Talking is produced by the incredible Lacey Alexander. Stay tuned for Southern Remedy Healthy and Fit. And coming up next Monday, I want you to join us. I want you to listen. That would be great. And thanks again for making us the #2 talk show in the state. It's a big honor. Y'all have a great week.